Joining me tonight on the election special debate, I have two contestants in the Lubaga South constituency. I have the Honorable John Ken Luchamuzi. Some people call him the man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too.
I'm happy to see you, and it's an honor to host you. You are a legend in the politics of Uganda, aren't you?
You're also a legend in Uganda.
Also joining us is a man, the last time I talked to him, he was a presidential candidate. You aspired to lead Uganda, but you came very short. However, you're still now trying to get another way of getting into the Ugandan politics, Mr. the Honorable Lubaga Mukaku. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Good evening, Comrade Kamara. You're spot on. And try to do it the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, because
the back door.
Einstein says, if you can't get what you actually want to get as a prize, you should always look for alternatives. Alternatives that are sound, viable, and intelligent alternatives.
So, talking about intelligent, I just met a young man who, because he heard that you're going to be on the show, I think probably he was in DP or something like that. They said, Honorable Lubaga Mukaku is going to be on the show. He's vying for Lubaga South. He said, you know what? He's a man running around. Perhaps he doesn't know where he's going. I said, why? That because at one point you were in the Democratic Party, then he saw you in Magere in the National Unity Platform, and now I'm told you're in Democratic Front. Where are you heading next?
It's unfortunate these days. Is it because we have intellectual bankruptcy, or we are less of a human being, normal human beings who cannot discern or unpack things? You find somebody calling coalitions or strategies for building solidarities, wider solidarities, calling them political parties. If you talk about the Democratic Party, yes, I have been a DP for a very long time, as you know, probably much longer than the young man that you were talking about. 5 months ago, I just decided to decamp from the Democratic Party because of the reasons that are clear to everyone, to a new party called the DF. And I'm now the national chairman of the DF.
We're talking about Uganda's oldest party. We are talking about Uganda's oldest party. We're talking about a party that has ideologies in which we thought you are grounded in those ideologies, that you cannot just move. In fact, people expected you to hold forth in the Democratic Party, try to change from within, because this is a party that you have sacrificed for. This is a party that has been around for quite some time. This is a party, I suppose, whose ideals you cherish.
When a party moves away from the ideology, when a party moves away from its values, when a party moves away from what it tells the people it stands for, what do you do next?
I think you have failed to understand whether DP has moved or Norbert Mao has moved.
I've not even talked about Norbert.
Yeah, because the party does not move. The people move. The party does not move. The constitution and the ideals of the Democratic Party have remained the same. If the people you think have failed, we expect Honorable Mukaku Lubaga to stay put and correct the thing from within.
Comrade Kamara, what is in a name? Just letters. What doesn't change is the Kamara I know. You can change suits. You can change the way you speak. But the brain of Kamara and the Kamara himself will remain the same. And we had pains explaining everybody here, people, even in the constituency. The other day, we had a John Kennedy Chams, who is a CP, and people wanted to vote. I let me tell them, why don't you vote DP? The constituency is predominantly DP. They gave John Kennedy Chams, performed well. He maintained the standards of the Damiano Lubagas and the Dr. Lubagas in the constituency, and the Wasole computer. He maintained the standards. We had our late brothers, one in Subugansambu, in Makindye West, predominantly DP, performed so well. It didn't matter what kind of symbol, what kind of letters that he had. This is Samuel Walter Mukaku Lubaga, still standing firm on truth and justice, fairness, okay? Fighting for freedom. But when those who manage the party say the party has deviated. I know that I know the values I stand for. A party that is democratic cannot rig elections, cannot lift ballot boxes, cannot staff ballot boxes. And if that is the direction they decide to take, I cannot stay put in there because I know what I stand for.
So I'm sure the ancestors and the founders of the Democratic Party must be turning in their graves because their son has turned their
Not
backs.
because of Samuel
their son
Lubaga?
has turned their back on his back on them.
No.
And that must be, they must be turning on their graves. Because look, you came with a lot of promise. We thought you're going to have some kind of a backbone of steel to be able to withstand and maybe change the party that you think is sinking to the street. You don't disembark because you think this is going nowhere. What happens if the people of Lubaga?
Comrade Kamara, who is you? You said you came with a lot of promise. I still remain myself. I remain Samuel Walter Lubaga, who followed that ideology of truth and justice. If you say the Democratic Party, and I say the Democratic Party cannot be an election rigging party.
If the Walter Samuel Mukaku, whom I knew of 20 years ago, if he met you, you would fight.
Yeah, no.
Because you're so changed.
It's still the same. Still the same. The party has shifted away from what it said it believes in. And we have seen it in Mbarara, we have seen it in Mbale, we have seen it in Katonga, we have seen it everywhere. And now even the people who claim to lead the Democratic Party, you have seen them turning yellow. I cannot be held up and I can't hang into something that cannot be defined properly. I remain Samuel Walter Lubaga, the true Democrat, the freedom fighter, the man who stands for truth and justice, and I am a centralist, ideologically.
What kind of fighter that cannot stay and fight and rescue his party?
You said when I didn't succeed in the presidency, I am using the other way. So a wise man will never use the same, and as Einstein says, you never use the same methods to achieve the same gold medal that you so wish. Let
me turn to the man. Honorable Ken.
I was enjoying
the banter. You enjoy the banter. That's Kamara for you.
I was enjoying the intellectual flow.
John, Ken, if you allow me to call you Ken?
Yeah.
Okay,
no problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Ken, if you could, Uganda, you're a different breed of leader. But now you aspire to lead this internet, TikTok generation. Quite frankly, even the things that they're doing will be very difficult for you. Will sound Chinese or Greek. I remember back in the day, as a reporter following in Lubaga when they're firing tear gas, when you were at your A game, do you really think you still have that A game?
Why not?
In this TikTok generation.
Why not? Let me tell you one thing. I feel proud for being what I am today because the generation you are talking about as a reflection of my adventure. I was once the national chairman of Uganda Youth Council.
You're a veteran youth.
Yeah. And I enjoyed my stay in that office because the youth I know must be embraced. They are dynamic, they want change, they want quality, they are aspirant, they are strategic, they want people who don't change images. Once you endeavor to reflect on that, you have got them. Otherwise, why did the young people choose to support Sebagala? He was an old man, but he attracted the attention of young people. So it depends on the atmosphere. The atmosphere you are talking about in terms of the .com is not a reflection of the youth dimension, I know.
Because I can imagine those young artisans, those people working in the garage, those young people who are on the internet, who are on TikTok and on Facebook and all this kind of stuff, you cannot relate with them with all respect, can you? And they are the majority.
But they have their aspirations. They have their aspirations. And if they were approached in an atmosphere of sanity, where people can speak their manifestations properly, they can surprise you in terms of decision. That is why I still think that we should not give up, because the atmosphere has changed. The articulation of issues as they are, the programs related to action, programs related to institution making, programs related to change and the democratic framework usually attracts them. It depends on what sort of atmosphere you are in. The COVID scenario was a very unfortunate thing, because it came at a time when the elections were in the offing. And very few people who had wanted to impress them could get the opportunity of even speaking to them. So I tend to think that what has been happening might change depending on where we are going.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on a thing that they have aspirations. And I know the youth in the Lubaga South, there's an issue of unemployment. It's a big deal. Some of them feel excluded. It's a big deal. So you, as an aspirant, as a parliamentary candidate, if you are to get in, what would you do to change the issue of unemployment, but also for them to feel that they are included? Because
for example, the notion of the time has come for Ugandans to endeavor to employ the scenario of regional government is becoming a very attractive force to them. When you tell them that, why don't we ensure that we put in place a system of government where power is shared between the center and the regions, so that youth in various regions can tap the resources without being hoodwinked. That is an attractive force.
The regional tier system.
Yes, I was recently in Makerere, where I gave a paper, and it attracted them a great deal. The opportunities, the problem we have, Kamal.
I was honored to get a book, to receive a book from you,
yeah,
which talks more about the kind of government system you're talking about.
Yes.
But you will need, allies in parliament who are going to listen to your idea and perhaps make that change. But if you're a lone soldier, a conservative party, how do you change? You're going to drown in a sea of yellow that is thinking different.
Don't get it wrong. I have always been lonely but successful. I give you an example of several scenarios where many people got surprised on how I got things through. The motion I moved to oblige the Museveni government to talk to Konyi outside Uganda in Juba took me 80 months, but it went through. The motion I moved to direct that we drop the idea of applying DDT in the fight against malaria, it sailed through. The motion I moved to protect the Vivanja holders under the Land Act as amended in 2004 went through.
But you also know that the NRA letter UPDF that had been in a war since 1980, by the time you tell them to talk to Konyi, there was fatigue of war. They were tired.
I was still mentioning.
They were tired.
I was still mentioning the motion which I moved in 2013 to propose that President Museveni be impeached on account of his failure to explain why donated money was transferred to the purchase of a plane. Nearly succeeded if the signatures are not got reported, lost under the cover of Odongoto.
But you also know, with all respect, that you lost your parliamentary seat on the matter of integrity deficit because you could not declare your wealth.
No, that was not the case. There was a maneuver to get me out of Parliament. That's why I went.
Well, but
That's why
it could have been a technical thing. That
No,
there was an issue
Kamal,
of an integrity deficit
Kamal,
on your side, sir, that you could not declare your work.
That was not true. We were 46 people who delayed our forms. Mabike was one of them, Honorable Mabike. Honorable Kagimu Kiwanuka, the son of Bendikito Kiwanuka, was one of them. They just spotted me because they didn't want me in Parliament. That's why I won in the Supreme Court.
So the thing is, you should have gone with many others.
Yes, I should have gone with many others.
So all of you were wrong.
No. They just targeted me. It is only forms belonging to John Ken Ruchams that were rejected. The rest were accepted. So don't mention that. It is a shame on the government side.
Samuel Lubaga Mukaku,
Sir.
The issue of unemployment is big in Lubaga South.
Huge.
But you people, the young people in Lubaga, are very, enterprising. You have their own ingenuity of surviving. How would you help them, to ride on that ingenuity, to ride on that entrepreneurial work ethos, to be able to get out of the bondage of unemployment?
First of all, the environment. The broken society, broken politics, a failed economy. As Parliament, which is the National Assembly, checking on the excesses or failures of government, you've got to be steadfast on that, because that is the environment that actually policy is going to be sunk. And then, after the policy, the government programs. How fair are they? How fair are they to the people that they're intended to? Then, thirdly, the ideology that you are using, NRM, how it has failed to fix the problems of our economy. Tax the people, the poor people, tax the labor force, give tax exemptions to those who are mega rich, the Suduirus and the like, and then the so-called investors, give them tax exemptions. The debilitating taxes that do not allow people to save anything, to invest in whatever they can land their hands on or their brains on. That's already too bad. But also secondly, the government programs or the projects that we have, where is the, you have a road construction in Lubaga South, for example, and you have our friends, the Mohozis and the what, taking the projects, and the people working there are not from Lubaga, and those single moms who have strived so much to ensure that their children go to school, borrowing wherever they can to ensure that their cameras go to school, becoming engineers, becoming social workers, becoming potential entrepreneurs, becoming whatever you can think about. They are walking the streets for 15 years without getting a job. When they want to borrow money, you send them these money sharks, the money lenders, and the Fincas, and the Fouls, and the Graminis, that basically are rooting their whatever limited investments. So you need a policy. You need a policy first and foremost, local content. If we have government projects that are going to be implemented within Lubaga South or that particular constituency, it will work for the whole nation. So please, let us have 70% of those.
How does Lubaga Samuel Walter Mukaku of the Democratic Front, assuming you made it to Parliament, be able to change a government policy as a lone soldier in that house?
What do you mean, a lone soldier?
Because I mean, let's face it. Even if all of you in the Democratic Front won the constituency where you're running, you'd still be a minority. So how do you change people who already fixed their mind to go a certain direction? You could be making sense here, yes, but making sense to yourself. How do you make sense to the others?
The problem is to think that all Ugandans are stupid and permanently stupid. The next thing is that you have just chosen me here. Why have you been working with Dr. Chiza Besigye, therefore you became FDC? Why are you working with John Ken Ruchams, therefore you were like going to CP? building alliances and solidarities. That's what it means. That when you go to Parliament, a house of 529 people who may not belong to the same political party, that you have people who will understand, who are capable of discerning and unpacking what you're saying,
so
you persuade them. Don't take to Parliament people who cannot speak, who cannot discern, who don't even understand English, who don't even understand policy issues, who do not even appreciate the laws, and who cannot approach the Camaras in a decent way to convince them and persuade them to follow your rule.
So you are very confident that if the people of Lubaga South accepted and elected you, you would be able to convince the 400 plus or 300 plus NRM members of Parliament to actually carry your idea?
Mine is to convince a critical mass. John Kennedy Chams has told you how he was successful in making certain things go through on the DDT. He just told you that. If he managed, how about Samuel Walter Mkakulubeka, former presidential candidate, a leader in my own sense, a person who have mentored many leaders and been colleagues to many of those leaders, and they're all aspiring to come to Parliament. I don't fear you being NRM or FDC or whatever, as long as I know the brain I'm speaking to can appreciate sense and reason. The problem that we are having, when we elect people through excitement and they go to Parliament through that excitement, and I don't want to use the word, then at the end of the day, you cannot convince them. So that's why you've seen Samuel Lubega.
I think you're making a mistake thinking that common sense is common with everybody.
No. Now let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
Everybody you'll be sitting with in that house.
Let me give you an example. Not everybody. Yeah. You are trying to convince the critical mass within the National Assembly, within Parliament. Don't you forget, for example, many years trying to bring the Muirus, the Cassianos, the Asmani Vasarjuas, and all these, Dr. Abedi Bwanika, and the rest. We are building that critical mass, even outside Parliament and during an election. And we're building cross-party solidarities so that when we go to Parliament, and of course, we are also building strong bases. For example, if Buganda thinks the way I think, and the Kampala metropolitan area thinks the way I think, and then the Teso people also think the way I think, and we go to Parliament, it becomes easier building a critical mass than just thinking we do nothing about it.
So it appears you seem to suggest that you have your men and women in the inside on the others across
don't you remember
across the aisle.
Don't you remember?
Let me come back to Honorable John Kennedy Chams.
Just a moment, if you can allow.
Yes,
if you can allow. Don't you remember that at some stage, the so-called predominant forces of today, the Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, were in the minority? How did they manage to convince other people to follow them, even in difficult episodes?
It was not the power of the ballot; it was the power of the bullet. I hope you have to remember.
Do you think it is easier to convince somebody to go and die? It was the power of the bullet. Die for an idea,
and perhaps has remained the power of the bullet.
You think that is easy to convince somebody to go and die for an idea? It's not easy.
So
now you're talking about just going to Parliament, convince people about a policy that can work for all of us.
By the way, if you ask many of them, probably 1980, probably they didn't envisage that the man they escorted the bush 45 years later would still be president. That
is the problem,
Kennedy.
the scandal of our generation.
Why are you making a comeback? With all respect.
I expected that question to have come first. I am surprised that you did not bring it first.
No, I don't come with I was softening the blow.
Yeah, first of all, I am not dying to return to Parliament.
You seem to.
I'm returning to Parliament with reason, fundamental reason. Because most people do not know that if we don't pray very hard, the army could take over government today. Because governance has crumbled miserably in Uganda. And it is the concern of every reasonable person to understand that Uganda is Uganda.
Do you have a national army?
Where are you taking me to the army?
You have just brought in the army.
You know what has happened in Guinea-Bissau? They have taken over.
He's trying to recruit you.
The point I'm making
UPDF.
is that the state of governance in Uganda is so bad that anything can happen. As a Ugandan,
I've had many times members of the opposition saying we do not have a national army, that it is a personal army. And if that's the case, I've not heard you, but most of people who think like you across the aisle say we don't have a national army. So if there's a personal army will be taking over for who?
that is a detail. But the point is, the governance in Uganda has crumbled beyond dimension. And responsible people like John Kendrick Chams cannot keep quiet about that. So I am trying to persuade many other people in Uganda to understand that the crumbling of governance emanates from Parliament, because Parliament is the debate assembly in the center, which must attend to the performance of the executive, the judicial, and everything. If you see Parliament crumbling, then you know things are not good. So I am trying to come back. First of all, I love the people I was representing in Lubaga. The representation standard of Lubaga South has crumbled. At one time, we were at the top of the mountain. Agra Wari and I were declared the best performing MPs in the 7th Parliament. That attribute is still on my mind, but as if that was not enough, I am also looking at the standard of debates in Parliament. Today, it is miserable. If I was to assess the performance of parliaments from 1996, the 11th Parliament has been the worst. The standards have dwindled miserably. And as if that was not enough, the main reason why I'm coming back, I come from Buganda Kingdom. I am attending to the Ensonga Semasonge Town, 5 main issues
of
Buganda, namely federalism or regional governance. And I have a petition ready. As soon as I get to Parliament, I read it out and ask the Speaker to let me blow it out. The issues are: the report of Justice Odoki indicated that federalism was popular, commanding 97% in Buganda and about 65% throughout Uganda.
If I remember very well, federalism was literally killed by somebody from Buganda that is even more qualified to speak about matters of Buganda, a prince of Buganda.
But that is not very... that is not clear. They always satans.
If you remember the Prince
Molondo.
Molondo, the man from Mitiana, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he let us down. Does it mean we continue sleeping?
He's more Buganda than you could be.
Well,
he's the actual of the royal blood.
I don't know what you mean. There are many people with such kind of thing when we let down people. But the point I'm making is good enough when the president of Uganda and the others understood that federalism was popular. They wanted to bully us with what was referred to as the regional tier, which is now part of the Constitution. The fact that it's part of the Constitution is good enough to enable me proceed, because I can no longer now go and kneel down before a president. I will just hand over the matter through the Constitution. And what are the issues that I need to present? That the people of Uganda would have liked to take on the regional tier, but they rejected it because of the deficiencies which you have spotted out. Namely, the document did not clearly state the function of the regional assembly, which was supposed to be the second chamber. Mm-hmm. There was no clarity on how the fiscal policy in terms of taxation would be shared between the regions and the center. There was no clear margin on how social services responsibilities would be shared between the center and the regions vis-a-vis the issue of security. A lot of money today is going to defense to sustain the endeavors of one person or one family. If we had a regional government order, we would share responsibilities related to security, because there are some areas of security where you don't have to pay any money.
It's interesting and intriguing to hear you talk about the one family. In fact, Lubaga South has seen a lot of the House of Ruchamuzi. yourself, sir, your daughter, and do you want to come again?
You are contradicting yourself.
How?
The scenario of my daughter came because people wanted to abuse the Constitution to push me out of power, out of representation. And I went to court, and I was declared innocent. So don't talk what is not sensible.
Don't you think the people of Lubaga have seen enough of the House of Jamzi?
See, the people of Lubaga who said, no, because we love the man, let us get a replica of that man. And that is not a crime. John F. Kennedy, the Kennedy family became popular because there were actions derived from them and associated to them. So the point I was making is that, so if I convince Parliament that those amendments are necessary before we take up the regional tier scenario, many people are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the time is now for us to adopt a regional government order. For example, why should Uganda have 82 ministers? Why should we have 600 RDCs? Why should we have a parliament of 550 MPs? Why should we have 7 centers of UPDF in 7 countries outside Uganda? What security venture are we fighting on? Something must be done. The people of Uganda must wake up and understand that the time is now for them to share powers with the center through the regions that created Uganda in 1962. The aggrieved parties in Uganda
Walter,
could even pursue the matter up to the International Court of Justice.
You've made your point, sir.
Yeah.
Honorable Walter Samuel Lubaga Mukako, I wonder where you stand on the issue of federalism or regional tier. But I also wanted to know, considering that you come from a place, Lubaga South, where young people are very skilled. In fact, there is a young man who made a movie, who killed Captain, I think, who killed Captain, I'm forgetting the name, that people have been coming from the United States to come and see the ingenuity of the local people in different spheres of the economies, including the performing arts and movies and you know, mechanics and all that. You know, they need to be nurtured. They need to be somebody to hold their hand, and then we can have serious tech engineers coming from Lubaga South. I don't know whether you actually see the potential and the ingenuity of the young people of Lubaga South.
If I didn't do so, I would be blind. And I'm not one of those who are blind or myopic.
What would you do for them?
You know, you were my interviewer some time back when I told you we want to create a Uganda which irrigates aspirations, a Uganda of opportunities, a Uganda where nobody is left behind, a Uganda that nurtures talent. You remember that debate? The presidential debate. I believe in this. I believe in investing in people. And where a country of our demographics is that the young people are more, almost 80% more than the older ones, how do you not invest in such talent? How do you not give such a population opportunity?
I can hear people, the incumbent president and the current candidate of the NRM saying, look, I have given them so many in terms of investing them, giving them money direct into their pockets. There's something that they think or say is revolutionary, giving 1 trillion of the economy to every parish of Uganda through parish development model. They have given them a myoga. If they're young ladies, there is something called you know, investing. There's a World Bank project that's giving $200 million into investing into women. There are many avenues that they could take advantage of. In fact, the president is saying, now the presidential candidate, that is going to make it threefold the money from the parish development model. I can hear him saying something.
Ungarming political lies was my duty at the time and still remains. You know, political hoodwinkery must stop. Haven't you heard people saying Uganda now is in a middle income statement?
The parish development model. I'm not a Museveni apologist, but the parish development model is real money that has gone to real people.
Let me expound on this, what I'm saying. Political hoodwinkery. Chitimba bula.
Kigumaza.
Chitimba bula. Chitimba bula. That's the word in the language we sometimes use outside these walls. A new word has also emerged, Chiwani politics. And then another one on the background of Kadingo politics. I'm not a student of either of those. I'm not. I believe if you are a political party, and that's why I was saying, what is your ideology? A party like NRM, whose ideology is tax the weak, tax the poor more than the rich, ideological pillar, economic pillar number 2, impoverish the people so that you have a mass, an army of workers who cannot fight for their rights. Our labor force is languishing for the last 40 years, cannot talk about bringing a good government program with good intentions. Parish development model that you're talking about is full of the terrain. The terrain is injustice, unfairness, and hoodwinkery. The terrain of parish development model. It will be.
You tell the young people or the people of Lubaga South that PDM is not something good for them.
You are saying you tell the young people. Let me tell them now. That I am telling them now.
PDM is not good for them.
Let me tell them, and you listen. And you listen. If you are going to, you're going to give 100 millions to a parish. For example, the parish I've been in today. That is Lubaga.
Now the intention is to give them 300 million.
Listen. A parish I've been in, that is Lubaga Parish, within Lubaga South. 16 zones. One of the zones, which is Nalukolongo, has Wambizi. Wambizi is the abattoir, Wambizi, that employs, one industry, employs 2,000 people. 2,000 people, and it is not even a whole zone, 2,000 people, okay? And you are going to bring 100 millions.
And that's why I suppose
100 million.
That's why they are bringing threefold.
Can I demonstrate this? 100 millions. Because 2,000 just a small portion of that zone. You have about 7,000 households to 10,000 households. You give them 100 millions. What is the percentage that will have received those 100 millions? But look at Chiruhura. Look at Kazo. Go to Isinjiro. A parish, what is called a parish, I'm not talking about a zone. Here I've been talking about a zone. It has between 65 on record, and according to our statistics, 65 to 120 households. If you gave them 100 millions, you have like given every household $1 million. So the injustice in giving this money, the injustice, and moreover, in Lubaga Parish, if you are collecting taxes, every door is contributing taxes. Every door, every mudala, everything contributing taxes, and whatever they contribute, you bring back 100 millions, and you siphon it away to Chiruhura, to Kazo, to Kabong, who have very few people. That's injustice of the highest order. Secondly, who is managing this parish development model? If you talk about a Wanu Katunyi, and you're not talking about a Wanu Kamara, who is a resident of Lubaga, or Mukaku, he's a resident of Lubaga, that single mom who pays that school fee through the nose, borrows money, sells everything, and makes you an engineer, makes you a journalist, makes you whatever, to come potentially good to manage the parish development model. Listen, you are hiring people from outside, and the money that they are receiving is even $500,000, that is 0.5 million. That is injustice of the highest stakeholder. Then the other one, you don't give the parish development model monies in time. 5 years now, since parish development model was announced. You ask the people of Lubaga, how many times have they gotten this parish development model monies? Not even twice. And 5 years have gone. They will not bring the money that they have lost. They want to continue while other people have already gotten that money.
Okay.
We want a member of parliament that can fight for these people. And Kamara, thank you very much for raising this. I think we need justice even in our economic policies.
I still do not know whether that kind of line of thought is giving you votes or you giving away votes. But
I wanted to supplement.
Okay.
It's very good.
You're digging
analysis.
a hole, all of you are digging a hole into
Very good analysis. First of all, the PDM slogan is a meaningless slogan. First of all, that money we are talking about is borrowed money. It is the taxpayers' money. I'm giving you the realistic image in Lubaga South, judging from what I've seen and received from the people. Many of those people are complaining that they have been deceived by people from NRM. They keep on deceiving them that the money is coming, it does not come. Some have spent as many as 4 years without receiving the money. And above all, most of the recipients of that money are NRM members. When they give one person in a family of NRM, even the children in that family get the money.
Because the political headship has been decapitated.
If that money was to be useful to the people, they should have carried the scenario of a pilot project so that before the money is used, applied, people are taught the mechanism on how they can best make use of that money. In most cases, that money will never come back.
But,
so instead of spending the taxpayers' money in that regard.
You're talking about issues of administration.
Yes.
But look at the intent.
No,
but also policy.
But
also the policy itself.
Look at the intent.
The injustice within
Look at the
policy.
intent of giving money to the people directly in their pockets as a loan which is supposed to revolve around amongst them with the lowest percentage in terms of interest. Where can they get that money? And look at the idea of increasing in urban centers like Lubaga threefold, instead of 100 million to 300 million, because that's what is being talked about.
I was going to conclude my remarks as follows.
And you as a member of parliament, your job would be to actually...
I wanted to conclude my remarks on this money. Instead of dishing out that money illicitly, one would rather recommend the application of methodologies through which the people can best make use of that money. Facilities, marketability of products in which they have invested, all that is nowhere to be.
So the thing is, Honorable Luchamuzi, you agree the issue of giving the money is okay. You as a member of parliament, on your oversight role, you can now go and maybe hone the program and make it better. No, in terms of administration.
The idea would not be bad, but it is not directed. It needs some direction.
That's where the MP comes in. That's where you come in. But when you come in, you just try to make better a policy program brought by the NRM. Which you think is okay.
That money benefits only people in Ankole, where you have those divisions Mukaku was talking about. Fewer people are entitled to get the money and they make use of it more than those people in Kampala or Buganda where the population
but
is.
But Comrade Kamara, let me just come back a little bit.
Don't make me sound like Emmanuel Dombo. You're not making me sound like Emmanuel Dombo. I'm not Emmanuel Dombo, but I'm inclined to think that the parish development model is a good policy.
Let me come back a little bit. Stone or wood that looks like bread is not bread. So everyone would want to eat bread, but if it is stone that is painted to look like bread, it's not bread. What you're talking about is if the program is full of injustice in the way you distribute wealth, and that wealth made by the people themselves, which is taxpayers' money, then that's no good, because you are enriching certain segments of the country which are very small, vis-a-vis impoverishing those others who actually contribute the wealth. Look at the other end, where you come to supervise parish development model, and you are the president, and you use 2.5 billion to supervise 1 million. Why don't you give these people who are in tens of thousand households, why don't you give them 1 billion at least? Instruct your RDC or minister to go and supervise, or some lower cadre from the ministry who is technical enough to know what has happened and not, and you are spending less. You spend 1 billion to give to those people, you save the 1 billion and give the 500 million for other projects. They would have helped the people of Kampala better than siphoning monies away from them. Because
okay. Let me move. I want to move away from Paris development model to another issue that affects Kampala. We, the residents of Kampala, because Lubaga makes Kampala city.
Indeed.
We live in a bad city. The infrastructure is bad. It's chaotic. It's chaos. In fact, every time I'm driving back from Fort Portal to Kampala, I tell my people, I'm going back to chaos.
And you go through
I'm going back to my chaos city. Because this is chaos. I wonder what you'd do to make Kampala, which is like the door of the country, a deserving city that we can all be proud of. When it rains, it becomes mayhem. The floods, the filth, the congestion, the smell, the noise, the disorder, the impunity on the roads. Is this city even redeemable?
Yeah, let me talk about two things regarding the environment. I think you are addressing the environment.
Yes.
In Kampala, and I think you have spoken that as if you are at the police station, because the environmental matters are very dear to me. First and foremost, Kampala Management Board, that is the KCCA, has failed up to now to adjust its program in a manner which protects the tree cover in Kampala. If I was the mayor of Kampala, I would ensure that I gazette a law which makes it a crime for anybody to cut a tree at his or her own by protecting the tree cover. Because the trees contribute a great deal to what eventually becomes a water source and a source of enriching Lake Victoria and the water bodies around. Two, you have a problem of the environment sector in Kampala. I don't know whether NEMA has anybody who cares in terms of supervising what NEMA should be doing, because the wetlands in Kampala are dwindling miserably. I am talking about a situation which could cause a catastrophe in the very short run. And what I'm talking about also adds value to what is going on in terms of debate about the Nakivubo Channel. Nakivubo Channel is fed by 7 hills of Kampala. You know that. All that water collects in a single place to travel for about 70 acres up to Lake Victoria. I can see a danger now which has been mounted by a whole head of state who has directed Wanham Kigundu to build an infrastructure without dimension, without care about the ideology of the water as disturbed, which could even cause a greater catastrophe regarding how the water collected in Kampala reaches River Nile and Lake Victoria. I can see a danger now facing Uganda and Kampala and the international community, because Nakivubo Channel is not only a program of Uganda, but it is also an international program. The fact that it relates to what happens in Lake Victoria vis-a-vis the River Nile. I can see danger, all right, which I am concluding the matter. No, the danger I'm facing is as follows. This water, if it is not protected so that it remains living and it arrives in Lake Victoria when it is dead, there is going to be an extra catastrophe. That water is supposed to be in a living form, so that as it travels to Lake Victoria, because after traveling to Lake Victoria, it joins River Nile. River Nile is the source of the waterfalls from which we generate our electricity. If the water is dead, even the Biriro, the waterfalls, will die and perish. So there is a catastrophe awaiting our weakness to understand the environmental dimension of protecting
Hold on
Kampala.
to your point, and before I come back to you, Honorable Lubaga South, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to know more about how you can make, for example, the City Hall, where you can have a Lord Mayor that can work with the Minister, that can work with the Executive Director, and can work with the Council. Welcome back to Elections Special Debates. My name is Patrick Kamara, and my guests this evening, I have Honorable John Ken Luchamuzi and Mr. Walter Samuel Lubaga South. Both of these gentlemen are running in the parliamentary race for Lubaga South here in Kampala. And before we took a break, Honorable Luchamuzi was describing the issue of environmental concerns, yes, and particularly the
Kamara, before
yes, let him conclude.
So I was saying that a giant development program like that one on Nakivubo Channel should not be sanctioned by KCCA. KCCA, in terms of environmental measurement, doesn't have the local standard to decide what should be done. An environmental impact assessment should be the song of Parliament and the NEMA to be conducted around that development, so that after completing all the research works required to cause an analysis and a direction, that work would be subjected to a public hearing, which must be advertised or gazetted, so that people know that possibly in March or 16th of February there will be a discussion on the finality of the project.
All right, let me, Honorable Lubaga South, I wonder what you would do as a member of Parliament for Lubaga South to bring sanity, with all respect, at City Hall, because today you find the Executive Director is not talking to the Mayor, the Lord Mayor is not talking to the Ministers are not talking to the Councillors are not talking to the RCCs, and all of them seem to be in a collusion course. How would you direct that?
Before I tackle that, we have a problem at hand. Today you invited us to come here and debate so that the people can see the competent brains and the competent minds they want to send to Parliament. Unfortunately, we are only two here. The rest just disappeared, nowhere to be seen, but they want to be elected. That's a big problem. A big problem. Is it a problem of not understanding English? Is it a problem of not discerning policy? Is it a problem of not wanting to be known so that they can kusivachiwan, they can kutimba brother the rest? Now that also explains what we are having at the top of our leadership. Failed governance, and then a shambles of policies, and insanity in managing our government programs and all that. For example, what he has just mentioned, how do you award somebody contract to construct over Nakivubo Channel without the critical without the critical signature of the KCCA, of the Executive Director, the technical, of NEMA, of those who are supposed to assess the social impact, of those who know the ownership of the land, of those who are the political hold the political leadership of this country. But going to your question, unpacking it this way. Today, a city that was remodeled from KCC to KCCA to look like the Greater London Authority, like many other authorities around the world, how they have been transformed, to have a single representation and political headship, administrative headship. In Uganda, if you wanted to help us to improve our Kampala, Mese Kampala, and you wanted one to represent us, who would represent us? Is it the cabinet minister, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who is in charge constitutionally? Is it those ministers of state who don't sit even in cabinet unless when instructed? Is it the RDCs who, in many aspects of what actually governs the city and in security, they say they are in charge? Is it the executive director? Or is it the Lord Mayor and his council who are just spectators and maybe abakubi benduru of what is going on? we are in a total mess. Who commands this? For example, you invited those head of New York, head of these are cities, and one wants to help us, or World Bank, whatever, who would go to represent our Kampala city. Unless we solve this, because if the Lord Mayor thinks that he's the political head of this, in actual sense, it is the president. It is the cabinet minister. The president is the cabinet minister reporting to himself. So we are in a mess of administration, a mess of leadership, a mess of policy shambles, a mess of who vetoes what. That's why the other day you had an executive direction. Give the contract. You give the contract without even knowing whether the people that are supposed to sign on the contract have signed, whether there was fair competition, whether there was enough discussion, whether the people concerned were consulted, whether they had any debate or any input into this. You can't correct that mess unless we go back, one, correct what went wrong in the Constitution and our basic law. Secondly,
what would you amend in the Constitution on that?
I've just mentioned who is in charge of the city. Who is in charge of the city? For Greater London Authority, we know that the mayor of London is in charge.
For a long time,
the mayor of London is in charge.
For heaven's sake,
even appointing
is a recent thing.
Even appointing, yeah, that's why they brought the amendment. It was benchmarked on Greater London Authority, like any other greater city authorities, and they said we want. And if you look at the intentions, we want the city to have a single representation. We want it to have a streamlined administration. We want it to have this. What happened after the law? Total mess. Total mess. You and I, even today, cannot squarely put the blame to anybody, because we are wrong as regards the basic law and the Constitution, because we are wrong in the way we administer, we are wrong, we have failed in leadership, and we are failing in policy and policy programs.
Before we conclude, there's an issue that is probably at the heart of many Ugandans. It's about how we travel in this city. Honorable Ken Luchamzi, there is no efficient public transport system. The people of Lubaga South would love to see an efficient public transport system that can bring them to the city center or take them back, but it's not there. How would we, the way how Kampala is designed now, how our roads are, what would redeem us?
There is a problem which is so imminent that must be addressed squarely. You are taking us to the days of UTC. A responsible government in any part of the world should mind about how people transport themselves from their residences to their working places. There you have now the border, for example. Border scenario is jumping up because it has provided an alternative to public transport. And yet it is messy. It needs recorrection. But it is there to help the people in substitution of the UTC, which was bundled out by the President of Uganda. We had an infrastructure that enabled the common people, the students, to travel long distances from one place to the other. It is no longer there now, and you're hunting down the borders who are trying to help you instead of reconstructing their work so that they do a better job in Kampala. Otherwise, I see a real mess in Kampala which needs urgent reconstruction.
What is your proposition on the public transport system for Kampala?
First of all, there are so many things you need to correct. The first thing is the mentality, typology, and modus operandi of our leadership. Secondly is trying to look at the bottlenecks. Bottleneck number one, we have the worst driving culture. We have the worst driving culture I've ever seen around the world. 45 cities I've visited, the worst. Secondly, not that we have the narrowest roads. Even London has very narrow roads. The traffic in Kampala would just fit in one borough of London. But in those boroughs, traffic flows. In ours, the mindset of the traffic controllers, including our traffic police, is They want to do this do it for 30 years without learning a lesson. No statistics taken. They're supposed to feed the city engineers and the planners, but because their intentions are not there, no record during Kaihura, during whoever, they want to continue doing this because they get kitu kidogo. They will stop anybody in order to get 2,000. That is stupid. That is backwardness. Then again, how we have arranged our city, as city council or city KCCA. Sometimes you wonder, no signage where it is supposed to be. But they are happy, the traffic officers are happy to stop you and say, look, you have been driving on shoulders. You ask him, where is the signpost? And they know the law. The law says every 50 meters we should have the proper signage. Do we want to spend on any signage? No. We want to eat the monies, whichever monies that come. Then roadworks, poor planned roadworks, including those people who sweep our roads, who come in the morning to do so. They are sweeping as we drive. They are sweeping as we drive. And again, the morale is also low. They are paid peanuts, no minimum wage for everyone to work while they are happy. Then the road, look at our road now from Kibuye to Busega. For 27 years, it has been like that. Monies have been brought and eaten. We don't even know where some of them are lying. It's a road that connects us to 5 countries. 5 countries: Burundi, Rwanda, Congo, Tanzania, Malawi. And it also connects the Kamaras, those from Kigezi, those from Ankole, those of Asalarwera, Budu, Mahogola, Sembabule, Maokota, Gomba. All these people from Fort Porto. Look at that road.
Look at Natete.
Is it stupidity? Natete. Is it insanity that nobody can see it as a matter of national importance? That you bring a trailer from Tanzania of rice, as it reaches Busega, it will have to burst tires. It will have, because these holes potholes within the road are like caves. Now, that increases the transport costs, but also traffic from morning up to around midday, and then from 4 up to around this time. Look at the man hours wasted. Man hours wasted per day, per person, per year, week in, week out. We don't even think, and we want revenue. And our people go back without even making enough money for their families.
Walter,
oh gosh.
You've made your point. And so, gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'm going to give each one of you a minute to give us your parting shot, beginning with the Honorable Kedlu Chamsi.
I am returning to Parliament to ensure that the governance scenario is corrected. As we speak now, the governance status under President Museveni calls for revamping and urgent action. I am surprised that nobody has taken over government militarily. Otherwise, there is a problem.
I know. Do you know what you're hovering on? Something very dangerous. Are you inciting?
No. What I'm saying. Anything can happen.
You're inciting a coup.
So, in order to avoid that scenario,
I hope you're not going to use this platform to incite a coup.
No. What I'm saying. What I saw on the platform of television yesterday in Buikwe is sufficiently telling you that there is a problem in Uganda. Someone comes to campaign, he is invaded by police and the military because he has a population following him. Where are we going? I propose that the people of Uganda should find the sense to promote me to Parliament so that I do something that will ensure that the 16 regions of Uganda share power to stop the crisis of governance obtaining in Uganda today. Otherwise, short of that, we are all in trouble.
Thank you very much, Honorable Samuel Ultemukau.
I've enjoyed the banter because we have a lot in common with the comrade Ken Chams. A lot in common. He's a federalist, I am. We fight for devolution of power together, which is for the whole country, not just for one region. he's a multi-partist. We are all centralist. But the good thing is, he has been there. He has played his role. He can be a very good advisor, and we shall work together. If the people of Lubaga decide it is Mukaku, I think the partnership will work. We have
my parliamentary performance stands high.
We have Honorable John Kennedy Chams, you have Mukaku Firebrand, even wanting to be president of this country.
My parliamentary performance stands high.
I know it is high,
yeah.
But the good thing is that those who have watched the debate, they know that Mukaku can now even shoot better than John Kennedy Chams. But at the same time, he's a colleague. We shall work together. We've been working together for a long time, and we all struggle to achieve the greater interests of Uganda, Kampala, Lubaga South, and Uganda.
All right,
so
I want to thank you.
I wish our voters the best, but also take note. Those who shy from these political debates, who have given us very precious time, NTV, Kamara, thank you very much. Those people who shun political debates like this deny the population the opportunity to know who their next member of parliament, how they can perform, and their capacity to perform. And I think this will be a very big judgment on them.
I want to thank you so much, Honorable Walter Samuel Lubaga Mukaku. I want to thank you, my friend, Honorable Ken Luchamuzi. But I want to thank you more, the viewer, for the privilege of your company. You've had these gentlemen exchange and sometimes disagree a little bit. They disagree. It's not that they hate each other, but I want to believe it's because they love Lubaga more. The people of Lubaga, it's up to you now to decide who will carry the day. Good night, and God bless you.